So Gallup released new numbers that caught my attention this week. You may have seen the headline: a 17-point drop in the share of Americans who say religion plays an important role in daily life. Now, that drop happened in a single decade, from 2/3 of the country in 2015 down to 49% today. Numbers that large do not come from random noise in a survey. They come from people making careful decisions about how they want to live. They come from families asking what faith adds to their lives. And they come from people who grew up inside a church and no longer find that message persuasive. And here's the part that stands out: that's not happening everywhere. The global median for religiosity has stayed stable for nearly 20 years. 81% worldwide still say religion matters. The shift is happening here in this country, the country that once stood apart from other developed nations on the question of faith and belief, and is starting to settle into a different place. Now, when you look at the trends through a wide lens, you see a story about change in identity, change in trust, change in what younger generations are willing to accept. This Gallup data isn't noise. It's a clear picture of the country that is moving. Hey, thanks for tuning in. I'm Mike Smithgall, the unelected mayor of Atheistville, and this is today's Mic Drop. So a 17-point shift in a single decade is rare. Gallup tracks more than 160 countries, and only a handful have shown a decline of this size. That tells you that the United States is going through a cultural correction, not just random survey glitch. People do not change their answers on religion without some level of thought. You may drift away from a hobby, you may forget to renew a membership. You do not drift away from religion by accident. Religion shapes childhood, its family routines, marriages, and social circles. When people step away, they are making a very conscious choice. The Gallup data shows half the country no longer considers religion important in daily life. This does not tell you whether people believe in God. It tells you whether religion holds authority over their choices. That difference matters. Belief is internal. Authority is external. The United States once stood out among wealthy democracies as an unusually religious nation. The trend line shows that the country is no longer holding that position. The United States is drifting towards the pattern seen in other developed countries that place a stronger focus on personal judgment, individual responsibility, and evidence-based thinking. And this is not a sudden break. It's a result of years of slow adjustments. People ask questions that do not receive clear answers. People watch scandals that receive no accountability. And people see faith used as a political tool instead of a personal philosophy. When a 17-point drop happens, something has changed, something deep enough for people to rethink what they were taught. And you can see this trend even more clearly in the Gallup chart that tracks 10-year declines across the OECD. Greece, Italy, Poland, Chile, Turkey, and Portugal have all seen large drops. The United States sits near the top of that list with a 17-point decline. The visual tells a story. This is one of the biggest shifts recorded in any developed country. Now, here is another notable point from the Gallup numbers. Christian identity remains fairly high, but Christian practice and commitment to doctrine do not follow that same pattern. You still have many people who call themselves Christian. You have far fewer who attend church and follow doctrine or use scripture to guide their daily choices. That split between identity and practice, that's what causes a lot of the friction that we're seeing. A person may say they're a Christian because that describes how they were raised. It may describe their family history, and it may describe the traditions that they keep around the holidays. But that identity does not guarantee agreement with political Christian nationalism. In other words, Christianity remains a major cultural label, while the role of religion in daily life has weakened. Gallup visualized this with a global scatter plot that compares how many people identify as Christian against how many say religion matters in daily life. The United States sits in a strange zone on that chart: high Christian identity, middling religiosity. Countries like Poland and Italy have stronger religious practice at similar identity levels. Countries like the UK or Finland have lower identity and lower religiosity. The United States sits between them. That placement tells you why we see so much cultural friction. The country does not match any clean global category. And that also helps to explain why debates about religion have grown sharper. Some Christian leaders are watching the authority they once held slip away. They respond with louder claims and stronger demands and a tighter grip on political power. When numbers drop, some people double down. They treat numbers as a threat to control, not a signal to reflect on their message. Christianity in the modern United States is splitting into two paths. One path is cultural. People carry the identity, but they do not treat religion as a rule book. The other path is activist. People want faith to decide law, education, and public policy. Those two paths share a label, but they do not share a purpose. A 17-point drop does not appear out of nowhere. There are reasons. Religious institutions have faced waves of scandal. Churches have shielded accusers. Leaders have evaded accountability. People have lost trust. And trust is a very fragile thing. And once damaged, it rarely returns. And you can see frustration with a political overreach. Some churches move from spiritual guidance to partisan messaging. Sermons turned into campaign rallies, while religion becomes an arm of a political power. People who value fairness simply walk away. Another cause is Christian nationalism. I have talked about this many times. The idea that the country belongs to one faith, that everyone else should play a secondary role. Younger generations just do not accept that worldview. Many older adults do not accept it either. The rise of Christian nationalism has pushed a large number of people to distance themselves from religion, even if they still believe in God. And then you have the hypocrisy problem. When leaders preach one set of rules and live by another, people notice that. When churches demand moral purity while excusing the behavior of their own members, people notice again. These moments add up. They reach a point where the label no longer matches the lived experience. People are not rejecting their neighbors. They are rejecting institutions that used fear and control and authority without earning the respect. All right, quick pause. If you're enjoying this analysis and you value honest dialogue, please click the subscribe or the follow button right now. It's free, it helps the community grow, and it ensures that you never miss a mic drop. All right, let's get back to it. Now, younger generations shape the future of every cultural trend. So when you look at Gen Z and Gen Alpha, you see a clear shift. These generations grew up with access to information. They know how to verify claims, and they are comfortable questioning authority. They do not face the same social cost for stepping away. They judge ideas based on merit, not tradition. For many young adults, the old idea that religion is necessary for morality just doesn't hold. They see kindness and fairness and personal responsibility as human values, not religious ones. They see empathy as a skill that grows through experience, not through sermons. And they see community as something built through shared goals rather than shared beliefs. It's very specific differences. The generational shift is powerful. When a 20-year-old says religion does not matter to daily life, that viewpoint becomes part of the next 50 years of American identity. And this shift also weakens the force of religious arguments in politics. When someone quotes scripture to make a point, younger generations often see no authority in that argument. They want reasons based on evidence and fairness and outcomes. The Gallup numbers show a country where younger generations are shaping a future that looks less dominated by religion and more focused on critical thinking. Now, the U.S. is in a strange spot, less religious than much of the world, but still more religious than most of its economic peers. And the country just doesn't fit cleanly into any category. That alone creates tension. People who grew up in a strongly religious environment now live beside people who grew up with none. People who think Scripture should decide policy live beside people who see Scripture as a book of stories and nothing more. This mixture creates conflict, but it also creates opportunity. When fewer people treat religion as a requirement for moral character, there's room for more honest conversation about how we treat one another. There's room to build ethics from shared human experiences. The decline in religiosity doesn't signal the decline in values. It signals the rise of personal agency. People decide for themselves how they want to build a meaningful life. They're building morality from human needs, not ancient rules. And they're replacing fear with inquiry. The Gallup numbers show a country in transition, and that transition will shape politics, culture, and community life for decades. The next generation will grow up in an environment where belief is optional instead of assumed. All right, that's my 2 cents. Unblessed, unfiltered. Agree or disagree? That's what I got for you today. We're watching a shift in how the country understands faith and authority and personal judgment. It's a shift by people who ask questions and refuse to settle for answers that do not hold up. I'm Mike Smithgall. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you on the next one. Hey, I really hope you enjoyed today's show. Before you go, make sure you like and subscribe to the show and tell a friend. It really helps us grow. If you'd like more great content from us, be sure to check us out right here on YouTube. You can also find us wherever you get your podcasts and check out our blog at atheistville.com. Until we talk again, remember reason and compassion go a very long way.